Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are continuing the reading of William Walker Atkinson's book, Thought Vibration. We are on chapter 3. So this will be chapter 3, part 2. All right, I am back in the studio. We got our lights on, we got our backgrounds. How fun is this? All right, so chapter 3, a talk about the mind. We started part 1 of chapter 3 on our last video. If you missed any of the previous readings, go ahead and check the YouTube playlists where we learn and grow together, y'all. All right. We left off with him saying the law applies to both good and bad habits. The moral is obvious. So we were talking about how when we have certain thought impulses, behavior impulses, once they start getting momentum, ain't nothing going to stop them unless we interrupt that pattern. That's why pattern interrupts are so important when it comes to personal development. I think that's a big thing in NLP. Just rewiring your subconscious mind. You train your mind, or you have been trained with certain thought patterns, certain narratives, certain beliefs. And if you do nothing to change it, which we're not even trained, we're not programmed, we're not taught how to change things. That's why nothing ever changes, or it gets worse, or it morphs into something else. It's a nightmare. Trust me, I've been there. And I'm sure you have too. But usually we wait until we're in extreme pain or something bad happens before we make a pattern interrupt, because we just can't take it anymore. But we can do this at any time. If there's something in your life right now that you want to change, interrupt the pattern. Start to question. What am I believing? What am I thinking right now? All right. Several of the faculties of the mind often combine to produce a single manifestation. A task to be performed may call for the combined exercise of several faculties, some of which may manifest by active effort and others by passive effort. We talked a little bit about those higher faculties of the mind. We have perception, the will, reason, imagination, intuition, and memory. And if you missed, on the description box on all my past videos, and on this one I'll put 2, I offer a free mini course. It's like 6 modules to talk about each of the faculties. So it's a free gift on my website if you want to sign up for that. But yeah, he's saying it can be combined multiple faculties. So for example, you can combine imagination with the faculty of the will, the faculty of reason, to think for yourself, a new original idea, perspective, perception, right? Shifting our perception. We can use all of those to manifest something. A task to be performed may call for the combined exercise of multiple faculties, usually imagination and the will, focus, our ability to focus. And he says, some of which may manifest by active effort and others by passive effort. The meeting of new conditions, new problems, calls for the exercise of active effort. So he's saying, when we meet new conditions, when we find ourselves in a new condition that we've never experienced before, or new problems, it calls for the exercise of active effort, that conscious thinking mind, as we learned in the last reading. Whilst a familiar problem, something we've dealt with before, that is embedded in our subconscious mind, in our memory, says a familiar problem or task can be easily handled by the passive effort without the assistance of his more enterprising brother. And so just like we have that stick person image, how we have the conscious thinking mind and the subconscious feeling or emotional mind, what he's saying is when we're meeting new circumstances that we don't have locked into that subconscious reservoir of habit to know how to deal with these things. Like, for example, if you have dealt with ants, black ants coming into your house during the summer, when it's hot, ants will come in when there's rain, when it's hot, when the weather changes, bugs get in the house. If you have dealt with that before, you know how to deal with it. You know to call the bug guy, you know to get the spray, you know to close your windows, reseal it. You already know how to deal with that. It's not something that's new to you, and it's not a new circumstance. But he's saying, so that's a passive effort. It doesn't take a lot of assistance from our thinking mind. But let's say, God forbid, when you live in a climate, snakes are coming to mind. Like, what if you got I don't even want to think about it. I was going to say like an infestation of snakes and you've never had to deal with it before. Frogs. Let's use frogs. Say frogs. Like you have seen a frog in your life, maybe at the zoo or by a pond or a lake or a park, but you have never had frogs around your yard. But what if there was like an infestation of frogs and they were like jumping in your house and jumping in your pool and like you'd be like, how do I deal with this? I've never experienced this before. That's going to take a lot of active effort. That was a random example, but you know what I'm saying? So, all right. So when we meet new conditions or new problems, it's going to take that active, conscious thinking effort, but old problems that we've dealt with before, it's going to be passive. It's not going to take a lot of effort. There is in nature an instinctive tendency of living organisms to perform certain actions, the tendency of an organized body to seek that which satisfies the wants of its organism. This tendency is sometimes called appetency. I have never seen this word, nor do I think I've heard of it. Again, this book was written in 1906. Here it is, my dictionary. Let's look it up together. And it's capitalized. Let's look this up together. A-P-P-E-T. A-P-P-E-T. Here it is. Let's listen together. Appetency. Can you hear that? How dictionary.com is reading it.
Appetency.
Appetency. Appetence. Appetencies. Okay. Similar words. Oh, an appetite? Are you joking? Hunger, craving? Am I a ding dong? I've never heard that. Funny, it doesn't give it stems from, it's not giving me a definition. Appetence? Intense desire, strong natural craving, appetite, instinctive inclination, or natural tendency. Oh, okay. Okay, so like a strong craving. Okay. It says, okay, there is in nature an instinctive tendency of living organisms to perform certain actions, the tendency of an organized body to seek that which satisfies the wants of its organism. This tendency is sometimes called appetency. Okay. A strong pull. It is really a passive mental impulse originating with the impetus imparted by the primal cause and transmitted along the lines of evolutionary development, gaining strength and power as it progresses. The impulse of the primal cause is assisted by the powerful upward attraction exerted by the absolute. Is he talking about God? In plant life, this tendency is plainly discernible, ranging from the lesser exhibitions in the lower types to the greater in the higher types. It is that which is generally spoken of as the life force in plants. It is, however, a manifestation of rudimentary mentation. This is giving me some grammar lessons here. Functioning along the lines of passive effort. In some of the higher forms of plant life, there appears a faint color of independent life action, a faint indication of choice of volition. Writers on plant life relate many remarkable instances of this phenomenon. It is undoubtedly an exhibition of rudimentary active mentation. All right. William Walker Atkinson, what are you talking about? Let me read that again. In plant life, this tendency is plainly discernible, ranging from, maybe it's supposed to be ranging from, the lesser exhibitions in the lower types to the greater in the higher types. It is that which is generally spoken of as the life force in plants. It is, however, a manifestation of rudimentary mentation, functioning along the lines of passive effort. In some of the higher forms of plant life, there appears a faint color of independent life action, a faint indication of choice of volition. Writers on plant life relate many remarkable instances of this phenomenon. It is undoubtedly an exhibition of rudimentary active mentation. Okay, plants have their own ideas. In the lower animal kingdom, a very high degree of passive mental effort is found. And varying in degree in the several families and species, a considerable amount of active mentation is apparent. Mentation, let's look that up. Mentation. No. Mentation. Mentation. Am I saying that right?
Mentation.
Mentation. That means mental activity. Did you all know that? Mental activity? That's fun. Huh. Mentation. Mental activity. That's one of my new favorite words. Mentation. Mind plus action. Mentation. I love that. I love that. Ooh. Okay. All right. So in lower animal kingdom, a very high degree of passive mental effort is found. Not a lot of mentation. Not a lot of mental activity. And varying in degree in the several families and species, a considerable amount of active mentation or mind action is apparent. The lower animal undoubtedly possesses reason only in a lesser degree than man. And, in fact, the display of volitional mentation exhibited by an intelligent animal is often nearly as high as that shown by the lower types of man or by a young child. Alrighty. As a child, before birth, shows in its body the stages of the physical evolution of man, so does a child before and after birth, until maturity, manifest the stages of the mental evolution of man. Man, the highest type of life yet produced, at least upon this planet, shows the highest form of passive mentation. And so like our subconscious mind, right? That is 95% of what's going on within us, that passive mental activity in the subconscious mind, as opposed to the 5% conscious in our active mind. So man, which is one of the highest forms yet produced as far as we know on this planet, shows the highest form of passive mentation and also a much higher development of active mentation that is seen in the lower animals. And yet the degrees of the power vary widely among the different races of men. Even among men of our race, the different degrees of active mentation are plainly noticeable. These degrees not depending by any means upon the amount of culture, social position, or educational advantages possessed by the individual. Mental culture and mental development are two very different things. You have but to look around you to see the different stages of the development of active mentation in man. The reasoning of many men is scarcely more than passive mentation, exhibiting but little of the qualities of volitional thought. They prefer to let other men think for them. I mean, that's what he's saying. If you just look around, you'll see how much passive mental activity instead of active, like how little people actually think. He says they prefer to let other people think for them. Do you think for yourself? Do you have freedom of thought? Mental activity, mentation, does not constitute thinking. Thinking is an activity that takes effort, energy, attention, focus. It's the higher faculties we have to engage. But if we just passively allow whatever to happen and come in our mind, that's what he's saying, is that most people, human beings, the highest form of intelligence that we know as far as the earth goes, they don't even practice or activate their active mentation. They let other people do their thinking for them. That's like that quote, what is it, Ken McFarland, that educator from Kentucky, used to say, Only 2% of people actually think. 3% think they think, and 5% would rather die than think. So only 2% of people actually think for themselves. 3% think that they think. They just got a lot going on up in there. And then 95% of people would rather die than think. Because it takes a lot of effort. Think about when you had to think about something. It's like, oh my God, I want to take a nap. About a test or something new you had to do. We don't want to do that. That's why we watch Bubblegum for the Mind. We don't want to think. We have to do enough of that at work, so we think. All right, so he's saying, look around. The reasoning, that higher faculty, our ability to actually think, they don't do that. They prefer other men to think for them. People prefer other people to do their thinking for them. Active mental activity tires them, and they find the instinctive, automatic, passive mental process much easier. It's that habitual thinking. I'm fine. I'm alive. I'm just going to go off. Things are decent now, but nothing's ever going to change until you activate. You have that active mentation. But the passive mental process is what runs our life, the subconscious mind. And until we interrupt that passive thing, it's just passive. It takes no energy. It's like already trained. It's the operating system, the OS. Think about if you've ever had an iPhone or, well, I only know iPhone, the operating system, the operating OS or your computer. If you didn't update the OS system, your computer's going to be crashing. There's going to be some bugs. It's going to be a hard time. We got to upgrade, just like we are quick to upgrade our OS operating system to have the new emojis, but like when have we, updated the OS system of our own subconscious mind? That's the truth. They prefer to let other people think for them. Active mentation makes people tired, and we just want to let the passive mentation run the course. Their minds work along the lines of least resistance. They are but little more than human sheep. Oh, y'all. Everyone talks about the Matrix, about how, you're just sheep in the Matrix. It's like, that's a matrix in itself. Okay, you the matrix. There is no matrix. There is no one matrix. Each individual person, you are creating your matrix. The matrix that you see is coming from you, and you. That's, you can see people who blame the matrix for their problems. They take no responsibility and accountability for what is in the matrix. Matrix, I've said before, I remember I looked it up. It means mother or the womb matrix. We are the womb. We are creating our own matrix. There's 8 billion matrices. Is that how you pluralize matrix? There's not one matrix, because each individual person is creating their own matrix, and other people can have similar matrices, or I think that's how you say it, but forgive me if I'm saying it wrong. But that's, allowing us again to have passive, like, I don't got to do anything. It's the matrix. They need to figure it out. If the matrix would just get it together, if they stop trying to control us, ain't no one's gonna try to control you. You are. I mean, yes, people are, but are you allowing it or not? So among the lower animals and the lower types of men, active mentation is largely confined to the grosser faculties of the material, our 5 physical senses: see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And most people act like animals, like they don't rely on their higher faculties. They rely on the 5 physical senses. This is what I see, this is what I hear, this is what I smell, this is what I taste, this is what I touch. That's life. It's like, okay, that's what you're perceiving, which your passive mind keeps creating. Oh, this is so true. So when people are talking about, human sheeple, they're not doing their thinking for them. They're just believing these echo chambers of whoever agrees with them. Oh, okay. Among the lower animals and the lower types of human beings, active conscious thinking is largely confined to what they can see in the physical world, in the 3D world, on this material plane. The higher mental faculties working along the instinctive automatic lines of the passive function. As the lower forms of life progressed in the evolutionary scale, they developed new faculties which were latent within them. These faculties always manifested in the form of rudimentary passive functioning. The afterwards worked up through higher passive forms until the active functions were brought into play. The evolutionary process still continues, the invariable tendency being toward the goal of highly developed active mentation. This evolutionary progress is caused by the vibratory impulse imparted by the primal cause, aided by the uplifting attraction of the absolute. I think the absolute is what he's talking about, is this infinite intelligence, as Napoleon Hill would call it. Let's see if ChatGPT would know. That was a fun little, actually, remember I had to go on Chrome because it didn't let me dictate. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. ChatGPT. Okay. Let's go back into emotional. Oh wait, where is this? Okay, here we go. Okay. I'm reading William Walker Atkinson's book, Thought Vibration. I'm on chapter 3, and it is talking about the primal cause and the absolute. What does William Walker Atkinson mean when he talks about the primal cause and the absolute, as he writes in all caps? Let's see what it says. Learning is fun, team. Learning is fun. Okay. When Atkinson writes about the primal cause and the absolute, often in all caps, he's pointing to what he sees as the ultimate source of all things, the first movement behind creation and thought. So the absolute, when he talks about the absolute, he means ultimate reality, the infinite, the unconditional, the all. It's beyond time, space, form, or limitation. It doesn't change, it doesn't evolve, it just is. Think of it as what many traditions call God, spirit, or the one, but Atkinson avoids overly religious language and instead frames it in metaphysical, philosophical terms. For him, the absolute is the background of all existence. It's not personal. It's not a being in the usual sense. It's the ground of being. So the primal cause is the first motion or impulse that radiates out of the absolute. In the absolute, if the absolute is like the still ocean, the primal cause is the first wave. It is the original vibratory impulse that set all of creation, evolution, and thought into motion, like the Big Bang. Atkinson often connects this idea to the flow of thought vibrations. He's saying that every mental impulse in us is, in a sense, an echo of that original impulse of creation. Absolutely. And you know what's a trip? A Course in Miracles would agree with this, because A Course in Miracles says, this is all a projection of our mind. This is a dream. And that, well, this is my theory, but the Big Bang was the first thought, and everything comes from it. Everything comes from it. That's a trip, man. Okay, maybe I'll do a Course in Miracles reading after this. Stay tuned. We might have a double header tonight. All right, back to the reading. Let's jump in. So the evolutionary progress is caused by the vibratory impulse imparted by the primal cause, or first thought, aided by the uplifting attraction of the absolute, or God. The law of evolution is still in progress, and man is beginning to develop new powers of the mind, which of course are first manifesting themselves along the lines of passive effort. Some men have developed these new faculties to a considerable degree, and it is possible that before long, man will be able to exercise them along the line of their active functions. In fact, this power has already been attained by a few. This is the secret of the Oriental occultists and of some of their Occidental brethren. The amenable of the mind to the will can be increased by properly directed practice. amenability. So the friendliness, the like, friendly, kind, amenable nature of the mind to the will can be increased by properly directed practice. That which we are in the habit of referring to as the strengthening of the will, is in reality the training of the mind to recognize and absorb the power within. So your faculty of the will, your ability to focus and choose what you think. Remember, the next moment is completely independent of the previous one if you allow it to be. You can have your next moment and the next moment and the next moment be brand new. You can see it brand new. Start to think of things differently. If you are not happy in your life or something is not going the way you want it to go, think about how you want it to go. Who cares if you know how it's going to happen or not? But if that's hard for you, that used to be hard for me. And I had to be like, what the hell? What am I thinking that's even blocking me from thinking about what I want? Victim mode, anger, blaming other people. I wanted to tie all the loose ends up and make sure everything's taken care of before I move into my future. No, I'll be there forever. Like nothing in life will ever be perfect, and I can't control other people. The only thing I can control is the focus through the will of my thoughts and my mind. What do you want? If you don't like what's going on in your life, what do you want? Think about that. Be normal, take care of crap that's in your life. But like, say you really, I've done this, oh my God, talk about blowing your life up, right? Which instance should I talk about? No, but when I found myself in a precarious situation, there's nothing I could do to change it. It happened. It happened. It's, when they say you made your bed, you got to sleep in it. Yeah, it was poopy doopy. I was like, damn, Gina. My old thoughts would have been like, Carly, you're so stupid. You're such a failure. You're never going to change. Like, this is happening again, you big ding dong. And it wasn't my first rodeo. So I think I understand. I made some decisions. Why? Because I was probably just letting my passive mind behave. But I thought, what do I want? I'm done with this bull crap. I made a decision. What do I want? And I just worked towards that. I still had to, like, when I got my DUI, I'm very open about that. I knew immediately that I was a big jerk ball for that. But, you think you're going to get away with it. All of my friends did it. You know what I mean? It's like everyone thinks, well, I just drove down the street. Well, I just did this. Everybody does it. I'm sorry. Like if you've ever been young and you have had some drinks and you drove. Let's just say that. But not everybody gets caught. I'm the lucky one. I always get caught. But it's like I understood that was a consequence. Actions, consequences, real, couldn't reverse it. And I thought, this is not who I am. Like I stopped drinking and driving. I didn't stop drinking, but I stopped drinking and driving. I would never do that again. But it's like I went to the classes. I paid my fee, my fines. I did the, public service that I had to do. I was normal. I went through the processes of cleaning up my mess. But my mind was somewhere else in the new version of who I know I am. I wasn't going to stay, I'm just a piece of crap. And here I am picking up trash in an orange jumpsuit, right? I was in an orange jumpsuit, but it was an orange vest. Let me tell you that. But all jokes aside, it's like when you mess up or things are tough, you can let your mind take you down for it. Don't believe that. Who do you want to be? You can have as many chances as you want if you take accountability and responsibility. I was just thinking about this man. I think he was on Joe Rogan. I'm pretty sure he was on a podcast, and he used to be like a Ku Klux Klan leader, like talk about racist to the nines and like hateful rhetoric, but that's how he was raised by like the Klansmen and like the Grand Dragon. I mean, he was talking about the Klan culture, and now he took accountability and responsibility for his ways, and now I think he's in like a jazz band or a blues band, and he like educates people on ignorance and racism and stuff, and like he has a bunch of black friends now. It's like crazy, it's like Robert Downey Jr. talks about, when he was using back, what was that, the 80s and 90s? I don't know when he had his heyday, but he did some wild shit. And now he's like one of the biggest Marvel superstars, Iron Man and other, critically acclaimed movies. But like He had second, third, fourth, fifth chances. And no matter how low you've been or how embarrassed you've been or how ignorant you could have been, if you take responsibility and accountability for what you did, it's like everybody deserves a second chance. And it really helps us to look at other people. Like when we get off on people failing, pointing at them when they fall flat on their face, like, oh, people love to see me fail. Let me tell you what. But guess what they can do now? Kiss it, right? It's like, I don't care. Come at me, bro. And there's people that still think I'm an old way. It cracks me up. But that's the whole thing. You got to get around people who let you grow, who let you become and give you second chances. Because there's people who be like, I remember what she did. That's just who she is. It's like, no, it's actually not. Like, you actually do not know who I am because I've changed. But some people be like, no, people never change. That is the creed and the law that they will be punished by. So don't let that be you, my friends. Anyways, I say all that to say, by the power of the will, we can focus on what we want, no matter what you've been through, no matter what stupid decisions you've made or stupid decisions other people have made. You are in control of what you focus on through the power of your will. And what you focus on is where your energy will go. I just did a post on it today about how I went on the 3-week, social media cleanse, which it probably ended to be like almost 4 weeks, like 3.5 weeks. And I've been tiptoeing back in. But I was just thinking about, you got to protect your energy. Whatever you put your focus on, your attention on, your energy will go. And I knew at that moment, the month ago, when I was like, things were changing in my life. I was up leveling. Things were good, but inside they weren't so good. Because that can happen. Like when you achieve goals, it's like, it's amazing out here, but then the sabotage comes in. And I was like, I recognized it. And I said, I got to cut off all of my energy to anywhere else, even if it was like scrolling on stupid memes on, Instagram or TikTok or whatever. Like, I had to cut it all off because I understood that I could not afford to waste any energy. I just did not have the reservoir in the new bank account because it's like when you up level, it's it's more expensive and you got to save your money a little bit, right? So anyways, I can go on metaphors. I'll have to post that on YouTube, the video. It'll be a short, maybe it'll be a mini video. It won't be a short, it'll be a mini video. I'll post it after this. But anyways, he's talking about the power of the will, that we need to focus it just like the muscle. He goes, strengthening of the will, just like a muscle. It is in reality training of the mind to recognize and absorb the power within, your power to choose. The will is strong enough. It does not need strengthening, but the mind needs to be trained to receive and act upon the suggestions of the will. Are you in control of your mind? Or is the news, is your spouse, is your friends, is your school, is your government, is your city, is your family? Like, who is in control of your mind? That's what he's saying. He goes, the will is strong. The will doesn't need to be trained. Your mind does. All right. But the mind needs to be trained to receive and act upon the suggestions of the will. The will is the outward manifestation of the I am. The will current is flowing in full strength along the spiritual wires, but you must learn how to raise the trolley pole to touch it before the mental car will move. That's hilarious. I love his metaphors. So the will is always going. It's like a track, a fast track, like a Gulf Stream. Whatever you put in the will is going to go. But if you don't actively put something in there, you don't want to know what's our focus will be on something negative that we don't want or from the outside world. Okay, so the will is always going. But you must learn how to raise what you want onto that trolley car to move in the direction you want. This is a somewhat different idea from that which you have been in the habit of receiving from writers on the subject of willpower. But it is correct, as you will demonstrate to your own satisfaction if you will follow up the subject by experiments along the proper lines. The attraction of the absolute is drawing, so I'm going to use infinite intelligence. The attraction of infinite intelligence is drawing man upward. So this attraction, this force of God, of infinite intelligence, of the absolute, is pulling us upward. And the vibratory force of the primal impulse has not yet exhausted itself. So there's still so much more, like so much more good that we can express. And that's what God is guiding us all to. The time of evolutionary development has come when man can help himself. The man who understands the law, with a capital L, can accomplish wonders by means of the development of the powers of the mind, whilst the man who turns his back upon the truth will suffer from his lack of knowledge of the law. Last paragraph, y'all, and we'll be on chapter 4. He who understands the laws of his mental being develops his latent powers and uses them intelligently. He does not despise his passive mental functions, but makes good use of them also, charges them with the duties for which they are best fitted, and is able to obtain wonderful results from their work, having mastered them and trained them to do the bidding of the higher self. When they fail to do their work properly, he regulates them, and his knowledge prevents him from meddling with them unintelligently, and thereby doing himself harm. He develops the faculties and powers latent within him and learns how to manifest them along the line of active mentation as well as passive. He knows that the real man within him is the master to whom both active and passive, conscious and unconscious functions are but tools. He has banished fear and enjoys freedom. He has found himself. He has learned the secret of the I am. Ooh. All right, we'll continue with chapter 4, entitled Mind Building, from William Walker Atkinson's book, Thought Vibration. How did you like that, y'all? How did you like that? I enjoyed that. I am thoroughly enjoying. I'm hopping on my Facebook page. Lefford Fate. Hi, Lefford Fate. You were here a while ago. I'm not sure if you're still watching. Which book are you reading? This is Thought Vibration by William Walker Atkinson. Yeah, thanks for the vocabulary lesson. You and me both, my friend. You and me both. Hi, Jen Bono. Louise. Love you guys. I never hop over to Facebook when it's live. I should probably do that more often. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. If you're on the Facebooks, I encourage you to hop on over to YouTube and watch all of the videos, the previous videos from this book and all the previous books. We have a lot of fun over here on the YouTubes. And if you have any questions, please reach out. If you want to work with me, all the information's below. Be sure to download that free, or sign up for that free course on the higher faculties. I did that a few years ago. What a gem. What a gem of a little course. But I will post that other video that I mentioned about focus and protecting your energy. So anyways, it is a pleasure. I love doing this. Stay tuned. I'll see y'all next time. Have a good night.